Welcome to the stress module. I'm going to take you through some research, some tools, and some practices that can hold you in good stead in times of stress. One of the most important things we can do when it comes to any part of our emotional world is to broaden our awareness. The more awareness we have about what's going on, the more likely we are to be able to catch ourselves before we react to our circumstances and respond in a way that is more productive and helpful. Let's get started. Stress is something that we all experience. It's important to understand our own relationship with stress in order to make good decisions and to be able to manage it effectively. We tend to think of stress as something that is to be avoided at all costs, but actually that's not true. In fact, quite the opposite is true. If we can get to know our stress and build a positive relationship with it, we'll find that we can respond rather than reacting. So in today's session, we're going to do some meditation. We're going to go through some theories around stress. We're going to explore stress and what it's like for you. And I'll take you through some tools and practices to help you handle stress. And not just handle it, but develop a positive relationship with it. So our meditation, you can get yourself comfortable. You don't need to be able to see me or the screen for this meditation. You'll likely have your eyes closed. So if you want to lie down or if you want to move to a more comfortable spot, that's fine. We'll be here for about just under 10 minutes. And when you find yourself in a comfortable position, just feeling your body, feeling the support of the surface you're resting on. Notice how it's holding your body weight. And in that knowledge, just letting your body let go a little. Be held. And if you feel comfortable, you can allow your eyes to close. And if you don't feel so comfortable with that, that's okay. You can just soften your gaze and maybe look at an area a little bit in front of you with soft eyes. And so all we're really doing in this meditation is observing our breathing. So I'll ask you now to bring your attention to your breath. Noticing your inhale and your exhale. And that breathing doesn't need to be in time with anything that I say. Just your own natural rhythm of your breath. And just noticing in this moment what your mind is doing. Perhaps it is thinking of other things. Maybe it's gone into the future and what you're doing later. Maybe it's thinking about something that has already happened. And know that all of that is okay. That is the function of the mind, to be thinking, to be planning. So there's no need to be disappointed with yourself about that. Just notice, oh, my mind has gone into the future. And just there's some information for you about your mind. One of the things we're really wanting in meditation is to be able to focus and to be able to have a clear mind. But you don't need that. You don't need to clear your mind of your thoughts. You don't need to stay focused during meditation. Your mind will wander away. My mind still wanders away. The meditation practice isn't bringing your mind to stillness and staying there. Meditation practice is noticing when your mind has gone elsewhere, into the past or the future or somewhere else. Noticing when your mind has gone there and gently bringing it back. So if you notice at some point, maybe you've noticed already, that your mind has wandered, you bring your mind back to the breath, back to just noticing your breathing, the same way you would bring back a very small child, maybe like a 1-year-old child. You don't need to go cross at your mind. You don't need to feel upset. You just notice, oh, you've wandered away, because that's what minds do. And you very gently bring it back, like, come back over here. This is what we're doing now. And you continue noticing your breathing. And when your mind wanders away again, it wanders away for the 10th and the 20th and the 40th time, you do exactly the same thing. Very gently, without judgment, bringing your mind back to the breathing. So in this way, meditation does require some patience with yourself. It also helps to redefine what the aim is here. We're just noticing the breathing and bringing ourselves back when we've wandered away. They're the two tasks. Now, the moment you become frustrated, the moment you judge yourself, the moment you resist or push away, you're no longer in meditation. Meditation has a requirement of non-judgment. It means you're not judging yourself. You're not judging the meditation. You're not judging the world around you and its noises and interruptions. You're actually just allowing all of it. And so coming back to your breathing again and again, and coming back in this moment, we'll get a little bit more specific about what you can notice. You might notice your breathing just below your nostrils, just above your upper lip. If you're breathing through your nose, which is preferable but not essential, you might notice the coolness of the air as you inhale. The sensation of that air moving into your nostrils or your mouth if you need to. And if you can't feel that, maybe you can take a few stronger breaths just to feel that sensation, that coolness of the inhale, and noticing the slightly warmer exhale as that air leaves your body. And you are in meditation even just with one conscious breath. If you've only noticed one breath at a time before your mind wanders, that's fine. You're still meditating. And if you're bringing yourself back gently, with kindness, you're still meditating, even though your mind wandered. And you can imagine that every time your mind wanders and you bring it back, you're wearing that path in your brain. you're using that neural pathway and those connections. The mind wanders, you bring it back. The mind wanders, you bring it back. And it's exercising that muscle of presence, exercising that ability, practicing that ability to come back to the here and now. And it's practicing for when you want to do that in real life, out there in the world, when something happens that is overwhelming or stressful. You want to be able to bring your mind to a place of presence and breathe and feel calm and then respond. Another place where you might notice your breathing is your chest. Another place where you might notice your breathing is your chest. Noticing the movement of the rib cage as those lungs expand as you breathe in and let go and relax as you exhale. Expanding and drawing in the air. Let go. Noticing each inhale and each exhale. You might even say to yourself, I'm breathing in, I'm breathing out. Another place you can notice your breathing is your belly. Noticing the movement of the breath in your abdomen. Put your hand there and feel the movement in and out, or the rise and fall of your belly. You can now let go of your breath awareness. And I just want you to think about how you'd like to feel at the end of this session. What would you like to get out of it? And if you got that, how would you feel? So still with your eyes closed, if they were closed. Just thinking about how you would really love to feel, ideally. Maybe relaxed, maybe focused, maybe calm, grounded, motivated, energized, whatever it is for you. And so my intention for this session is to empower you with knowledge and practices to demystify stress and enhance your mental health. And if I reflect on how I will feel if I can do that, I'll feel very satisfied. So when you're ready, I'll invite you to open your eyes and return to your screen. Just noticing how you feel, having sat with your breath. Feeling your body. Just we're going to look at something called the human function curve. This was originally developed by a cardiologist in the UK to demonstrate the correlation or the relationship between stress and performance. So here we have performance up the side, we have stress along the bottom. And we can see that down in this bottom corner here, where there is very little stress and very little performance, there's not much happening. As our stress starts to increase, our performance starts to lift. So this section here is sort of called the drone zone. It's where we're not really doing much. We're probably barely awake in the morning at this point. Not much stress, not much performance. As our stress increases, our performance starts to increase, and we get to a point where there's a really healthy tension. So just to get us moving in the morning, our body is releasing stress chemicals to get us up, get us motivated, get us moving. And this is really healthy. As our stress increases a little more, we're maybe faced with a challenge, the type of challenge that we know we can handle, or we have a pretty good feeling we can handle. And this puts us in something that might be referred to as the comfort zone, or the zone of creative calm. And this is where you're going to be in flow. So if you imagine, in work, for example, this is where you're working on a task and the task is really challenging, but you are rising to the challenge. You're really focused and you are very productive in a flow state. So at this point, our stress chemicals are at a fairly high level. So our brain is releasing stress chemicals to help us rise to this challenge that has been presented. And as you can see, this side of the graph is labeled good stress. So I'm not exactly a fan of the idea of good stress and bad stress, but certainly this is the healthier side of the graph to be on. This is where we have stress chemicals being released by our brain at a level that is sustainable and is quite healthy for us. Now, generally, when we are in this comfort zone, we're working really hard and we're quite enjoying ourselves. And so we keep going. We keep kind of pushing, and our stress increases and our performance increases as well. So it's a really nice relationship up to this point. Now, at some point, we get to a stage where our stress has increased to a level where there are a lot of stress chemicals being released, and we're actually going into a bit of a fight or flight state. And we can perform at a really high level for a really short period of time here. So at this point, we can work really, really hard. What we tend to think is that our performance is going to keep going up as our stress does. And that's actually generally not the case. So our stress continues to increase and our performance starts to drop off at this point. So once we've reached a certain level of stress, we think our performance is going to keep going up, but actually our performance starts to drop and our stress levels keep increasing because, of course, now we're more stressed and our performance is a bit worse. So we're having to work harder to achieve the same kind of results. If we keep going and if we don't sort of take a break and stop being in such a stressed state, we can actually reach a level of exhaustion. So this is where you're sort of falling a heap every evening after work, or maybe you're getting to a place in your working day where you just can't focus anymore. Or maybe it's a time of year for you where you have pushed and pushed and pushed and you find yourself in an exhausted state. So this is really a signal to take a break, this exhaustion. Ideally, we would take a break when we realize that we're in a quite a stressed state and we start to feel that fatigue, or even before we would ideally take a break. But once we get exhausted, you're going to need to take a longer break at this point. If we don't take a break at this point of fatigue or exhaustion, we can end up with breakdown And what that can look like is a really bad flu, sudden sort of illness, just being completely exhausted and needing a break. It could have quite a strong emotional toll on us as well. So there's an Eastern proverb that describes that we are tickled by a feather. And if we don't listen to that little cue, we are hit with a brick. And if we don't listen to that, we can be hit by a train. And I think these 3 stages, it's feeling the fatigue is a little niggle, like, it's time to have a little break and give yourself some rest and regroup. If we ignore that, we get hit with a brick of exhaustion. And if we ignore that, we can be hit by the train of breakdown. So I guess what I want to empower you with in this work is noticing and building your awareness of your own stress response, and noticing when you need to take a little break so that you can stay on this more healthy side of the graph here. And that's certainly possible to do. So let's do an exercise. I want you to close your eyes if you're comfortable and imagine or recall a stressful situation. Now let's make it a fairly minor situation. Maybe you're running late for work. Maybe you're working to a deadline and there's a glitch. Perhaps these things aren't actually minor, but imagining a stressful situation. And just noticing what happens in your body when you imagine this stressful situation. So if you're imagining yourself back there, if it's a memory, or if you're thinking of something imagined, not something that you've actually experienced, notice, even as you imagine it, even as you recall it, what do you experience in your body? Another way of asking that is, where is this stress in your body? If this stress was located in your physical body, where is that? And just put your hand on that place. So you've located it in your body. And now, what type of sensation is it? What I mean by that is it a tingling or a constriction or a heaviness, a tightness, a burning? What is the type of sensation that you're noticing? And so just being aware of that sensation, you can open your eyes, and we're going to do a short exercise now. So this is called the stop exercise. So I'll take you through it right now. Having just experienced that stressful sensation, the first thing we do is to stop. You can do this with your eyes open or closed. The next thing I want you to do is take a nice, big, deep breath all the way down into your belly. Another nice, deep, big, deep breath. Observing your body. So noticing that stressed sensation and just allowing it to be there, just noticing it. And then we proceed with what we're doing. So the stop exercise is to stop, to take a big, slow, deep breath or several, observe what's happening in the physical body, and then proceed with what we're doing. So I just want you to notice now, how is that stressed sensation now that you've taken a few deep breaths and observed? You may notice an easing of that stressed sensation, and I will explain to you why. So the stop exercise actually works to bring us from the distress side, the really stressed side of the graph here, back into the healthy stress range. And the way it does this is really simple. Basically, when we take a long, slow, deep breath, it sends a message to the brain that we're safe. Because when we're unsafe, we're taking very short, shallow breaths. So a long, slow, deep breath tells the brain that we're safe, and the brain gets that signal and stops releasing so many stress chemicals. Then our stress chemicals in our bloodstream are back at a level that the body can process more easily and tolerate, and they're back at a level where we can think clearly, where we can be in this more of our comfort zone and creative calm zone, where we're really productive and focused. So just one long, slow, deep breath and observing our body without judgment brings us from distress back into the healthy stress range. Now, the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is really important when we're talking about stress. It's a nerve that runs from the brainstem down through our body, particularly through our lungs and diaphragm and digestive system. So you can see the vagus nerve starting up here. One part of it runs down the front of the body and the other part of it runs down the back of the body. And if you see all of these yellow lines in and around the intestines, that is where the vagus nerve wanders in and around. And vagus is actually from a Latin word that means to wander. So this nerve really wanders all through our body, particularly through our digestive system. It gives a clue as to why stress can affect our digestion so much as well. So we can look to nature as an illustration of how this works. As we can see, we have a flock of deer and they are out in a group, they're connected, they are social, they're doing what they need to do by grazing, and they're feeling safe. Then all of a sudden, a threat is detected. So any animal like this is going to go into high alert. All of a sudden, they're ready to run. Everything is switched on and they're ready to go. They've got a high level of stress chemicals being released into their bloodstream in this instance. This brings us to polyvagal theory. So in the state where the deer are grazing, they're in their executive functioning. They're social, they're present, they're playful, they're connected, they're empathetic, and they're safe. And we can think of ourselves when we're having a good time, maybe when we're at work and we've got a challenge that we're really enjoying, maybe when we're relaxing with friends, we're in this ventral vagal zone. We're functioning, we're able to think clearly, we're in touch with how we feel, we're connected to one another, and we know that we are safe. Just like when the deer sense a threat, when we sense some kind of threat, physical or social or emotional, we go into sympathetic activation. So you can think of it as kind of taking a step down the ladder into sympathetic activation. Now, this is a much more ancient part of our brain than this ventral vagal safe place. This was developed much more recently in our evolution. So this sympathetic activation is what we commonly know as the fight flight state. It's where we're rushing, we're chaotic, we're anxious, we've got muscle tension, and we're overthinking. So this might be for us where we're facing a challenge that we're not sure that we can overcome. So we might be lying in bed awake at night thinking, we might find our shoulders are tensing up, our jaw being quite tense as well. We might be rushing, running late, forgetting things. It's kind of where we lose our head a little bit when we're too stressed. Now, we can't stay in this state for very long. And if you think of the deer, they stay in that sympathetic activation for a short period of time while they run for their lives away from a predator. Sympathetic activation is designed to be a very short, sharp, life-saving fight or running from the thing that is stressing us out, the thing that is endangering us. So we're not designed to stay there for a long time. If we find ourselves staying in fight or flight for quite a long time, the brain does something really protective because the level of stress chemicals that are being released in fight or flight are too much. The brain decides, okay, let's shut down. This is where we go into a dorsal vagal response. This is a freeze response. And it's where, for example, if the deer is caught by a predator, it might drop to the ground and play dead. So when the situation is too stressful And especially if the fight or flight isn't working, the brain goes into a protective mode and it just shuts everything down. We go into dorsal vagal response, and that is where we can freeze, we can play dead. And how we see it playing out in humans is often, we can actually physically freeze. We can literally drop to the floor and faint. There's some of the really extreme things that can happen. In fact, I had a client who had been skydiving and came to try and understand what his experience had been. And he was really excited about skydiving and jumped out of the plane and then completely blacked out. He can't remember any of his skydive. Luckily, it was his first dive and he had an instructor strapped to him as well. But his brain just went, this is far too stressful. There's nothing we can do. We're just going to shut down completely. So he went completely limp and completely blank and doesn't remember a thing. So that's a dorsal vagal shutdown, a dorsal vagal dive. But generally, how we see this dorsal vagal response presenting in us humans is we become very lethargic. We become very hopeless. We feel stuck. We're prone to depression. We feel powerless. We have no motivation. So we can feel like we're in a state of inertia. And basically, we can think of it as, okay, we were probably okay at one point. We became extremely stressed. That stress wasn't resolved and we got no relief. And so the brain has put us into this inert kind of state of the freeze response or the dorsal vagal response. So in the ventral vagal activation, which is where the deer are grazing and they're present, it's how we are when we're hanging out with our friends, our immune system is healthy. We feel happy, open and peaceful. We sleep and eat normally. We relate emotionally to others. We can understand and listen to others, and our body feels calm and grounded. We can also read others' facial expressions easily, and our face is expressive. Sympathetic activation, which is the fight or flight, when the deer have detected a threat and are running, or when we're super stressed and we're rushing and overthinking and trying to figure things out, we're releasing the fight or flight chemicals. Our heartbeat spikes, we sweat, we feel more mobilized, our digestion slows and blood rushes to the muscles to get us ready to physically tackle the thing that our evolutionary brain thinks that we might need to fight against. Our blood vessels constrict the intestines and dilate to the muscles. So the blood that is supposed to be going to our digestive system is redirected to our muscles. Again, why stress interferes with our digestive system so much. Our muscles might feel tense, electric, tight, vibrating, aching, trembling, and hard. This is why we need a massage every now and then. This is why you find your shoulders up near your ears when you're stressed out. So another good thing to do is keep dropping those shoulders down, sending the message that you're safe. Our hands can be clammy. A stomach can be knotted, or butterflies, or elephants in your stomach, and all of our senses focus. So you might also find that you get tunnel vision in this sympathetic activation, and that is us, through evolution being designed to really focus in on the one thing that's going to help us survive in this moment. Now, of course, we are often sitting at our desk in sympathetic activation, so we're not going to get up and run from a predator. We're not going to move and expel some of this energy and use up this energy. So it's really important to know what to do when you're in this sympathetic activation, because your mind and your nervous system can't tell the difference between a lion and the dead lion that's really stressing you out. You physiologically, you react in the same way. So it's really important to know how to bring yourself out of this sympathetic activation, because you cannot live day to day as though you've got a lion there about to eat you. You need to be able to bring yourself out of the sympathetic activation. Otherwise, your brain is going to take you into that dorsal vagal response. So you need to be able to bring yourself back to the ventral vagal state. And so again, this dorsal vagal activation, this is where the brain shuts down. It can feel like disassociation, numbness, dizziness, hopelessness, shame, feeling trapped, feeling out of your body, feeling disconnected from the world. Our heart rate decreases, everything sort of drops, our sexual and immune responses drop, We might feel triggered to feel nauseous. We might throw up. Our digestion is interfered. We might not feel pain very much. We're so disconnected from our bodies. Our lungs constrict. So we're breathing more slowly in a way, but not deeply. It might feel difficult to get words out or to express ourselves. And the brain has a decreased metabolism, so we can lose body awareness. Our limbs can feel limp and decreased tone, can't think clearly. And it can be harder to make memories. And our body posture might collapse or curl into a ball. And when you think of someone who's under physical threat, that is what we do. We hunch forward to protect our internal organs. So dorsal vagal activation is really like a shutdown and a slowing down in response to extreme stress. So I just want you to check in with yourself. Which state are you in right now? Are you in ventral vagal activation? Are you feeling open, present, playful, connected, and safe? Are you in sympathetic activation? Are you feeling a little bit stressed, a bit rushy, a bit chaotic, a bit of anxiety or overthinking? Or are you in dorsal vagal activation, feeling low, lethargic, depressed, hopeless, low energy, fatigued? So to apply the polyvagal theory to our human function curve, when we're in our ventral vagal activation, we're social, safe, and connected. We're in this, of course, this really healthy stress range on our graph. When we are in sympathetic activation, where we're really stressed, like the deer have perceived the threat, we're in sympathetic activation. And when we're in dorsal vagal activation, we are exhausted and potentially in a place of breakdown. So we feel depressed, hopeless, frozen, fatigued. So how do we move out of this stress response? How do we get ourselves from that really low dorsal vagal activation up into sympathetic activation and then into ventral vagal activation? You can't actually jump, just as a side note, from the dorsal vagal activation, from that really low state. You can't jump up into ventral vagal. You must take a step up that ladder into that sympathetic activation. So how do we move ourselves from either of those stressed states, sympathetic activation or dorsal vagal activation, up into ventral vagal activation, that connected, social, safe, that rest and digest place that we would really prefer to be spending our time and is a healthier place to spend our time? These are some of the things that can help move you. And you'll notice that they're pretty much all active. They're all physical. So yoga, heat or cold exposure, dancing, singing, B vitamins support your nervous system. They're more of a maintenance thing that you can use. Getting out in the sunshine, feeling it on your body, spending some time in nature, walking with bare feet on the ground, walking in general, mindfully walking, going to the gym, lifting weights, touch and massage, even just self-massage is great. Breath work, really nice, deep breathing. Shaking, if you find yourself shaky, it's a really good idea to actually let that happen. Let your body do what it wants to naturally do, because shaking discharges that stressed energy from the nervous system. Therapy, particularly a therapy that is trauma informed, so like Gestalt psychotherapy, which is the type of psychotherapist that I am, or somatic experiencing. Swimming is a really good one as well. Now, some of these might seem a little too simplistic, that, oh, I can get myself out of my depressed state by singing. It seems a little funny, but the point of all of these things, and done regularly, they also send the message to the brain that we're safe. Because when we're being chased by a lion, we don't sing. When we are in mortal danger, we don't dance. All of these things are things that we don't do when we are in grave physical danger. We don't stand in the sunshine and close our eyes and feel the warmth of it on our skin. It's just not something that we would do in that situation. So by doing it, we are letting the brain know that we're safe. So by moving slowly, by breathing deeply, by dancing, by moving our body in ways that we do when we are in the ventral vagal state, when we are connected and calm, it actually helps the brain realize that we're safe. So all of these things, and I would, if you're someone who is suffering from anxiety or depression, I would be including as many of the things on this list in your routine in a week as you can. So if you are really looking to make some changes to how you're feeling, I would suggest that you choose quite a number of these things and incorporate them into your weekly routine, because it's not just as though, oh, you're depressed, oh, sing a song and you're going to feel better. No, but continual practice of the things that we do when we're safe and social and connected and present is going to let your brain know that actually this is possible for you. Actually, this is a state that's accessible. Actually, we are safe. And one of the things that I think is really important, if you are suffering from anxiety or depression, if you're not just in a stressful moment in a project that you're working on or something like that, but if you do find that you are suffering from anxiety or depression, therapy is incredibly useful, and do shop around and find the right therapist. But actually observing yourself, working through some of these things, and working through some of the feelings that you have difficulty tolerating. Because if you can't tolerate your difficult feelings and your stressful feelings, your mind is going to take you into that that dorsal vagal shutdown. So therapy, I really encourage everyone to, if it's accessible to you, and I know it's not for everybody, but if you can, therapy is really, really useful. So let's practice a breathing exercise that can also be helpful to incorporate in your everyday. So you can close your eyes or soften your gaze. Just notice your breathing as it is in this moment. Take a couple more breaths. And just starting to lengthen your inhale. Nice, deep, long inhale all the way down into your belly, remembering that those vagal nerves down in your intestine. So breathing all the way down into your belly. Letting that vagus nerve feel that breath. Now I want you to start to lengthen your exhale. So it's like you're controlling the exhale and making it long. So beautiful, nice deep breath in, and then a long, slow exhale. So your exhale is longer than your inhale. Making your exhale as long as you can. Maybe even constricting your throat a little as you exhale, not letting all the air out at once. So beautiful, deep inhales, breathing all the way in, and then nice, long, slow exhales. And now at the top of your inhale, so when you take your nice, deep breath inhale, I want you to hold your breath for 3 seconds at the top of the inhale. So breathing in when you're ready, and hold 1, 2, 3, and then nice, long, slow exhale. Beautiful deep breath in, all the way in, hold for 3, and nice, long, slow exhale. You don't need to be in time with me. Great. That's really good. So we've been doing that for a few minutes. You can let go of your breathing and come back to your screen. I just want you to check in with yourself, noticing where on this polyvagal ladder you sit right now. Are you in the ventral vagal? Calm, present? Are you in sympathetic activation, feeling a bit rushy, a bit anxious? Or are you in dorsal vagal activation, feeling stuck, lethargic? And wherever you are is perfectly fine. I just want you to notice. So, in summary of our session, stress is healthy. We tend to demonize stress and try not to experience it, but actually it's really healthy up to a point. But prolonged stress leads us to fatigue and breakdown. With awareness, we can stay on that healthy side of the stress, of that human function curve, in that healthy stress range. And if we become distressed, if we're anxious or we're flat or depressed, we can bring ourselves back with breath, with awareness, and with movement. And maybe not all at once, but maybe bit by bit, bringing ourselves back out of those more stressed states, back into that ventral vagal state. So some homework for you. Noticing, check in with yourself multiple times a day and just notice how you're feeling or where you are on the ladder or where your stress is in your body. Practice the stop exercise several times a day. So you might set an alarm in your phone, so you do it 8 times a day, or you might attach it to something that you do frequently, like every time you make a cup of tea or every time you go to the toilet, you can do the stop exercise. It really doesn't take long. Certainly do it when you're working and you're in flow and you want to stay there, or if you feel that little tickle of fatigue coming on. Taking some nice, slow, deep breaths whenever you notice tension or anxiety, making sure that you move your body, and seeing if you can discuss this session with at least one other person in the coming days. Sharing what you experienced and what you noticed really helps to consolidate this learning. So thank you so much for joining me for this session on stress. And it's really my hope that you will now have greater awareness and greater tools to move forward in managing stress and staying in that zone of creative calm as much as possible, therefore enhancing your mental and physical health.